Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of Recap with Rep Jess. I hope you all are having a wonderful Wednesday and a happy St. Patty's Day as well. I am still here in the Capitol, and there's a couple things that I want to talk about that are going to highlight in the rundown here. So first, I have to say that I am incredibly disappointed in my colleagues on the other side of the aisle. They chose to vote against justice today, against justice for survivors of childhood sexual assault. My colleague, Representative Rousey, had proposed an amendment that would clean up language on a bill that would potentially land on the ballot this spring primary. And we were united on the Democratic side of the aisle in supporting that language. And there were a few Republicans who did join us, I want to be clear. But that language and that amendment would have allowed us to vote on a clean bill that would have brought us closer to justice for survivors of childhood sexual abuse. And by and large, the Republican members of the Pennsylvania House put their own political ambitions, they politicized the process over the interest of making sure that we got that bill passed. And I think it is absolutely unacceptable that they politicized the process, that they are going to make it harder for people to seek justice, that they are going to delay justice for folks who have been through so much already. It is absolutely despicable. My colleagues who have been around for longer than I have said that this is perhaps the worst thing that they've seen come out of Harrisburg. And I've only been here a very short time, so I cannot speak to that myself. I don't have too terribly much to compare it to, but I will say it was incredibly disappointing to watch my colleagues on the other side of the aisle choose to put their frustrations with the governor and his administration ahead of the interests of justice for people who have been denied a voice for far too long. It is absolutely unacceptable and just incredibly frustrating. But to get into a few other things that have been going on, Labor and Industry has just recently announced $2.6 million dedicating to creating workplace opportunities for students, including apprenticeships, workplace visits, and internships. And this is part of Governor Wolf's Back to Work PA plan. Also part of the rundown, redistricting is coming. Following every census, the state legislature gets new districts, and these are drawn by a bipartisan redistricting commission. And that commission is made up of the majority and minority leaders of both the Pennsylvania House and Senate. And together, those four must approve the fifth member of the commission. And if they aren't able to come to agreement on that fifth member, which given the hyper-partisan division that we are experiencing seems likely, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court will be determining that fifth member. From my point of view, because I believe we should have fair districts that are determined through a nonpartisan process, I personally support the creation of a nonpartisan Citizens Redistricting Commission. And perhaps by the time we next redistrict, we'll be able to get that bill reforming that process through the General Assembly. Also in the rundown, Robert Aaron Long, a 21-year-old white man, has been arrested in connection with several shootings at Atlanta area massage parlors that resulted in the deaths of 8 people, which is an absolutely unspeakable tragedy. The shootings of the 6 Asian women is steeped in racism and white supremacy, and I know that many of our Asian neighbors worry about anti-Asian sentiment and violence here in our own area. And to you I say, I will do everything in my power to create a community where you feel a sense of belonging, where you feel welcomed, and where you feel appreciated for all that you bring to our neighborhoods. And I am so sorry that our nation is failing you in this moment. Now let's talk a little bit about an event that we have coming up in the district here. We have our Arlington Community Cleanup, which is coming up very soon. You can see the details on the screen here. on March 27th from 10 a.m. to noon at the Arlington Spray Park. We'll be socially distancing, masked, all of that good stuff, and I'm really looking forward to cleaning up the neighborhood with you all. I want to talk just briefly about some of the votes that we've had, some of the other votes. Of course, I talked about the most despicable recent vote that we had, but I think those of you who follow me on Twitter, you know that I do a Twitter thread where I detail the votes that I have taken. Of course, we didn't have a ton of votes on Monday. It was mostly procedural things and amendments, but yesterday and today we had a few votes. So today we voted on 2 bills, in addition to that amendment that I talked about at the beginning of this. I voted yes on HB 140, which did pass unanimously in the House. And that bill provides for parking protected bike lanes and some improvements in pedestrian infrastructure as well to provide some increase in safety for cyclists and for pedestrians. And then I also voted yes on HB 196, which also passed, to extend employment protections to members of the Pennsylvania National Guard. Those were today's votes. We had a few more votes in the House yesterday. And these, are a little bit of a mixed bag. So I voted no on HB 230, and that bill would have created and required the use of a really costly tool for evaluating revenue estimates. And we already use a similar tool here in Pennsylvania, so I felt that was redundant and potentially could create other problems. I voted yes on HB 273 because that bill just corrected a misspelling in a law that had changed the meaning of it. I voted no on HB 103 because it would have led to an unreasonable increase in criminalizing certain groups of people, which of course is bad when it comes to ensuring that people can be productive members of our society. It creates an increased cost. I also voted no on HB 146 because the bill did not adequately consider timeframes. So under that bill, someone could be convicted years later for an offense that occurred at the very beginning of their sentence, and there would be no consideration for rehabilitation that had occurred since. So it would have stripped the parole board of any flexibility or consideration of individual circumstance, and I thought that was unacceptable. I voted no on HB 156 because that bill would interfere with the right of the accused to confront their accuser. I voted yes on HB 163 because I believe it's important to protect kids from predatory teachers. And I voted no on HB 185 because this bill did not have any requirement that the individual committing the crime know that the victim had a disability and it would have provided for a sentencing enhancement. I think that knowledge at that point is somewhat key to determining intent. So those were bills that we voted on. Again, if you follow me on Twitter, you will see in the moment I live tweet my bills. So as soon as I take a vote, I tweet why I took it. So you can follow along that way for in the moments. But as you all know, I always try to provide the update here as well. I do want to go over again, just as a reminder, some of the recent developments around unemployment, because so many of you are getting to the point where you're reaching your benefits year-end date, and I want to talk about what happens next so that you keep receiving that money. And let me pull up the diagram. So you can see the diagram here, and this will walk you through what you should be doing to make sure that you continue to receive your payments from unemployment. So first, you're going to want to identify which track you're in, and then walk your way through each of these points to make sure that you're doing the process correctly. So the only reason why you should need to reapply as opposed to just continuing to recertify on the existing claim is if you have worked since filing your claim in 2020 and have made 6 times your weekly benefit rate since filing that claim. So that's the only reason why you would be reapplying, as you can see from this flow chart. For any other reason, you should just continue to recertify. That did not flow off the tongue that easily. And of course, as always, if there are any questions that come up about what exactly you should be doing, do not hesitate to reach out to my office. You can see the phone number there. You can see the email address there. please, feel free to reach out with any questions, comments, or concerns. You all know where to find me. So that is the update for today. Again, I just want to repeat that I was incredibly disappointed by the political behavior of my Republican colleagues today in voting down an amendment that would have made it easier for victims of childhood sexual assault to seek justice. I'm just so incredibly disappointed by that despicable behavior. All right, that's it. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week, and please don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything that my office can do for you.